This show, Your Honor, it's great. I'm loving it. We're on episode 7. I legitimately now do get so excited to see the next episode, to see what's going to happen, that I do watch it at midnight. I've been doing that the last couple weeks now, and this episode, man, the twists and turns it had. This is Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry and Spencer, and yes, we are discussing Your Honor, episode number 7, part 7. Michael, man. Bryan Cranston is killing it in this role. I know, Larry, you're a huge Breaking Bad fan. Spencer, you're starting to watch it. You know, I've been told how great he is for all these years, and damn, he is. I mean, he is amazing in this show.
Yes, he's almost like Malcolm's dad. Like from, it's just great because in this show there hasn't been a whole lot of levity. There's not a lot of, humor elements, and I like comedy, but this show, it's one of those things where there's so many mysteries, so many things going on, that instead of filling spots with humor, it's been filling spots with amazing acting. And I, give them props, and Bryan Cranston props, because he's done so well within this role, but so has everybody else. And all these actors and actresses with things that I've seen them in maybe one other thing, but everybody their caliber is raised. And I don't know if it's because of how well Cranston's doing, or if it's just they mesh well together, but everybody on this show is amazing at what they're doing.
Yeah, they're all great actors and everything, and the performances have all been good. And as far as Bryan Cranston on Breaking Bad or any other show, it's him doing what he does. The caliber has been consistent, seemingly, throughout his career. And at least what I've seen of it, like you said, since Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh yeah,
so.
It's crazy. He reminds me a little bit of Michael Keaton in that that's what he's originally sort of, you think of him as in a comedy type show, and yet his drama ability to do drama and is really good. Michael Keaton was one of those guys who was sort of this comedian guy, and then he was like, oh shit, the guy can act. And Cranston is that, definitely. This episode, he's all in now. I mean, we're past the point of little cover-ups and this and that. No, he is all in. He is aligned with Jimmy Baxter. He is working directly for him. He helps dispose of a dead body, Trevor's body. He appears now. I want to get your guys' opinion on this. It appears at the end of the episode, and the audience, if you're listening, leave a comment. It appears that he was in on setting up the other judge. We know that he didn't get the case for Carlo. Carlo is going to be tried for the murder of Kofi Jones, and they wanted Michael to get the case so that he could help the Baxters, and get him off. But that didn't happen. It went to another judge, and then he's in the right place at the right time. He meets with her. They go have a couple drinks. He keeps ordering more drinks. She ends up getting pulled over by the police, taken in. Clearly, she's going to be in a lot of trouble. And it appears, based on the trailer for next week, that he's going to take the case. It was a little. The camera angles were trying to not show him in the seat, but it appeared that he was. So it looks like he was in on this. Do you guys agree that he helped set up this judge?
100%. They had the conversation right before he went out for drinks was with Jimmy Baxter, asking him what he's going to do. And he knows, Jimmy says to him, I know that you're going to make this right, because, well, he's trying to protect his kid, just like Jimmy's trying to protect, his son, even though Carlo's a piece of shit. But he knows that he's going to do everything he can, but he asks him, how are you going to make this right? And then without any explanation, that was the next scene they went into. So my very, I guess, justified assumption is that, yeah, he did it, and he did it on purpose.
Well, yeah, and it definitely seems like a setup, because, he seems like he put himself there, just to meet her so they could have those drinks and everything at that place and time, so that she could get stopped, and, so so that he could get Carlo's case. So yeah, it definitely seems like a setup, and I think it once again we're getting more examples of the length that Michael's willing to go to for this thing. Because he's framing somebody that he knows isn't dishonest. So, yeah, she's pushing him to like solve more cases and to rush to judgment, but she's not 100% crooked. Uh,
Well, I was going to say too. You look at the cops just happened to pull her over. I'm
mhm.
pretty those cops were Jimmy's cops, like people that were on the Baxter payroll, and that was my assumption immediately when I saw them and how they were kind of not only being skeezy but
Man, they look shady as hell.
Yeah, they did.
and that was my assumption immediately was that him and Jimmy took this up to make sure that she's out of the way.
The one that came around her side, I'm like, how is he a cop, man? I was looking at that dude, I was like, damn. He looked, yeah.
I've only seen cops like that in True Detective. Like in season 1 and season 2, like where we get the real grimy looking cops, but yeah, and I think one of them, at least one of them, I'm pretty sure is one of the guys who kidnapped Kofi, and we're interrogating him. So yeah, I think those are Jimmy's guys.
Speaking of Jimmy's cops, so Nancy Costello was the arresting officer taking down Carlo, and she starts asking a few questions here and there. She figures out that the Baxters knew. Now we know that it was Michael that told them, but she's starting to put together how all these other cops seem to know the lawyers that work with the Baxters. She's watching people's movements in the courtroom. She's starting to get frustrated and angry about how dirty the police department is. Now, we know Lee also has been on this sort of crusade to take down these dirty cops. Now, Nancy is looking into it. I think that's going to go somewhere, definitely. Whether or not Michael gets caught up in it himself, I don't know. But Nancy's going to start digging into these cops, I believe.
It's funny because Michael's done such a good job shifting the blame and kind of getting out of every situation. Like I said, there's only a couple episodes left at this point. I don't know if this is going to be him getting out of it, basically being able to shift the blame onto the cops and onto the Baxters, or if he's going to go down with the ship. To me, it would, and we talked about it last time, depending on whether or not they intend this to be a miniseries or if they intend it to be a show, because it could go on like Larry compared it to Breaking Bad, where it starts off as someone trying to do the right thing, not correctly, but he's trying to do the right thing, and then it just spirals out of control. This would be an easy story to tell and keep adding more and more to it, because it's not what they've added so far has been amazing, and I don't think that it would be hard to continue the story and still be entertaining.
Exactly, and like Spencer was saying, who knows where that trail will lead? Because she's discovering these corrupt cops who are tied to it, and it seems like she's definitely figured that out, that they're involved in this somehow. But yeah, the real big question is is this going to lead her to Michael, or does this lead her to thinking that this is a cover up between the Baxters and the cops, and potentially some drama between Desire? Is this going to pull her investigation farther from that? And at that, is this going to potentially get her killed? Because it also, this episode, we saw that she gained the attention of Mrs. Baxter, and she took her name and everything. So what will be the potential consequences there?
That's a good. I didn't even think of that. You're right. Gina Baxter was very, very much paying attention to Nancy, and now that she's going to start digging in on these cops, probably, you're right. Someone like her, they could go after her. And what would that do to Michael? Michael, he's proven at this point he's willing for people to die for his cause, and there's a great line. I think I wrote it down. Yeah, where he's laughing. It's his birthday, and I don't know the character's name, but Jimmy Baxter's, I guess, his
number 2.
His lead soldier or whatever. And he's like, there's no time for irony. And he's like, what are you, a philosopher? And he's like, what are you, a judge? and it's such a put down. And Michael, you see, and yet again, praising Bryan Cranston's acting, there's a moment where you see the anger and then the realization that, well, shit, he's right. I can't really say. What can I say? He's putting me down, but he's not wrong.
Right.
Because I am in this position, and I made a lot of these choices.
Exactly, and his take is very real. Where he's like, what's so funny? We're way past the point of irony.
Yeah. There was another great line I wrote down. Fia, not much of her and Adam this week. I thought that. Excuse me. I thought this was going to be the week where. Geez, hold on. Man, I thought this was going to be the week where Adam was going to meet Jimmy Baxter and we were going to get all that stuff. Nope, none of that happened. Matter of fact, he was barely in the episode and Fia was barely in the episode. But they had one meeting in which we get a little. We kept saying, who was Rocco? We don't really get to know who Rocco was. Was he a good guy? Was he following in his family's footsteps? And she gives the line, "The wrong brother died." And it was just a little bit, but to me it spoke volumes. As we know that Rocco wanted to leave and travel the world and all these things. Maybe he wasn't on the same path as, say, Carlo. We don't know. We never really get that. But in her eyes, that was the case. Maybe her and Rocco were not really into what's going on, where Carlo embraced it, times 10.
Well, yeah, and it's one of those things where it's the sort of thing where Carlo is the oldest child, by a good margin, it seems. And so it's probably the sort of thing where Jimmy was getting into this life when he wasn't so wealthy and everything. That's when Carlo was coming up. So he got to see the dirt his father did and was likely involved in a good bit of it, whereas his other two kids were likely born after Jimmy Baxter was the Jimmy Baxter that, New Orleans knows in this show.
The Oyster King.
Yeah, the Oyster King. Carlo was probably, around and, everything pre that. So
I don't know why, but the whole Oyster King thing reminds me of Ferris Bueller when they talk about the Sausage King. One of the fancy restaurant.
It is about that silly, right?
Yeah. Like, I don't know of any Oyster Kings that are worth millions of dollars. I'm sure there's at least one. I doubt his name's Jimmy Baxter, but I don't know.
I look forward to that long write-up we get about oysters in the comment section and what they're worth.
I would assume a lot. I'm sure that's a major industry. What was The Godfather? It was olive oil. Was that the business?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was their business. But yeah, the Lee. So Lee is fired, and it's she's sort of a side character, but a lot of development. We get a lot about her. The fact that she really, she works for this law firm that, they're all about money and that's it. And they make it very, she talks to, I guess, one of her bosses, and he's just like, look, you're all worried about, these people, and we don't give a damn about them. It's about the money. It's about the big contracts, or, the big deals that we can get. And, so you got to go. And she's okay with it. And then we have the moment where Michael professes his love for her, and she seems to be in a place where she's like, this is what I am. I want to help the people, take down these dirty cops, get Carlo behind bars for the murder of Kofi. I've got this new man, this judge who is a good man, and we got something here. How is she, if she finds out the truth about everything, what the hell is she going to do?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think we know that she's fired. Because we saw him present her with options, because they fought back and forth, argued back and forth, and he said, if you can tell me that you'll drop this, and focus on these contracts we have, and said, you can keep your job. And then we had the pan at the window. So while we know Lee is generally a good woman, did she decide to keep these niceties and keep her job and drop the case, or did she decide to do the right thing? I can't say 100% one way or the other, based on what we've seen. In fact, that's kind of the thing I thought she was going to tell Michael in the car,
And also Michael telling her that he loved her seemed timing wise to be a distraction to keep her from looking over to the other judge.
On his side. Yeah.
Doesn't mean that he didn't mean it. However, I don't think that that's what he was trying to tell her by any means.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. I assume she quit because if she stayed, it doesn't really matter to the story. Whether she honestly her quitting or staying doesn't really matter to the story. It only matters in the personal loss she would suffer, especially if she found out the truth about what's actually happening with Michael. Um,
Well, I think it matters in a way in that it plays into the themes of corruption that we see in this, and the way it affects even seemingly good people. And it could be the sort of thing where she quits, she promises to drop it, but she's dating Michael now, and he's already said that he loves her and everything, and she's going to be around the house more and more likely. So she may have professionally dropped it, but she may start to see these things, that lead her back to picking this up.
yeah.
And that would especially play well if we were going for something like a season 2. She
The season
dropped.
two, yes, yeah. Because, like I said, if she that whole scene, because she was still working with that company and still doing the cases. In other words, if she came in there and he's like, "Okay, you're still on the payroll," or she quits, I don't see how that affects any of the major storylines.
Well, I mean, if she's trying to, like, if we're saying like we were saying for a season 2 or something, if she's trying to dance around her job and yet still solve this case, and or if she's decided to drop it, but she keeps running into more evidence, given her proximity to Michael, or just the unreal amount of coincidences that we get in this show sometimes, it could be the sort of thing where she's playing this balancing act, like seemingly everyone else in the show seems to be, where it's like, okay, you're balancing between your personal, and it fits in with the title too, with her personal sense of honor or comfort.
Yeah, I think her being on good terms with that company would not help the case. I think right now, with it being tried before, we're assuming trying before Michael now. On top of that, she's been the one that's been giving the information to the police. She's been the one kind of digging. She's been the one going to the cops. She's the one that kind of got the people inside the prison to basically point the finger at the prison. But if for whatever reason, if she decided to stay loyal to her company,
Mm-hmm.
she would have to drop all that. So now all the information that she found would basically have to be.
But see, that's the point I'm making. All that's already done. She's not involved in the Carlo case at all, other than she helped find the evidence. The evidence is already taken. In other words, she's not defending anybody. She's not part of the prosecution. There's no.
Well, it also goes into just sort of cornering. What do either of you recall the detective's name?
Nancy Costello.
Yeah, Costello. Yeah, it goes towards cornering Costello also, because now, whereas this is one other ally she would have had in this thing to help her out with this, like now it becomes a thing where the Baxters are at her back, and Lee's more concerned with keeping her job now than helping her out, and it points to perhaps potentially an out for Michael because of that, and just shows how just all this corruption has just sort of stopped things, like stopped Michael from being discovered, and just how corrupt the system is in general. Because her firm wants money more than it wants justice, and well, she wants that personally, and we do get a major character in the show that's being torn between two things, if that's the case as well. Does she want this wealth, power, and status, or does she want to do the right thing? And like I was saying before, I just think it generally fits pretty well with the theme of the show.
How the hell is she going to be able to afford that car if she doesn't have a job?
The only reason I'm arguing is I just don't think it matters, and that was why I didn't even assume. In other words, when she went into that office, I was like, nothing in that talk affects the plot in any way, shape, or form that I could see. I was like, it doesn't matter. The only way it would matter is if she quit and then she turns around and finds out that Michael was responsible for everything, and now it was the sacrifice she made, and for no reason. She's
yeah,
already given all the evidence. She's not involved in the case. There's 3 episodes left. Her working with that company, I don't really see where that's relevant to the plot.
Yeah, and it's that sort of thing where she may have dropped it, and that could be relevant. Her dropping it and being, and like I said, discovering things around the house, which is a thing you just said here. Also, it could be relevant to a season 2, or it could be relevant to how things actually end. She's dropped it. She's settling down with Michael. She's taking on less profitable, but more morally. For lack of a better word, just better cases, cases that matter. She's taking those cases that matter now, and yet she keeps finding evidence for what's really going on. It could be that sort of thing.
Because if she stays with the firm, I mean, it's like, okay.
And there's only one reason I really argue this as much as I am, because of the framing of the scene, where it's left ambiguous at the end, and where he presents her with another option, and he says because first he asked her if you're going to drop it, or if she really feels that way, and then he says again, if she wants to focus on those cases and everything, then he could give her another chance. So to me, that, along with the framing of her looking out at these high rises and things, like it's just kind of showing conflict within Lee with this decision.
But she could also, if, say, she stayed with the firm, she might be assigned to the prison, because the prison is going to be brought up within this trial. So they're going to be kind of on the stand also, because they're also, somewhat responsible for perpetrating what happened. So does she help represent the prison as they go to trial?
That would be an interesting twist, and that Michael could exploit that.
Mm-hmm.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yet again, we're getting into those. We talked about it before we recorded. We're getting into those wild coincidences, but that I could see that.
Yeah, and what if we do get to a point where she has like hints to some degree of what's really going on, but like you said, she's representing the other side of this thing. And it's like, what does she do there? Like, does she again maintain those comforts, or risk losing that job?
Because if she was, I'm trying to think who. Yeah, if she was representing, let's say, one of the cops or the cops in the case, and Michael, it's like, well, just so happens that. But then I don't know if. Well, it would depend, because wouldn't there be some kind of I don't know how it works. If
conflict of interest?
Yeah, if they're a couple, if they're an open couple, could they work on a case together? I don't. I have no idea.
Well, what if she's representing Charlie in this whole thing? If it's tied to the cops, and it goes all the way back to Charlie to some degree.
Well, in local politics, we have a judge and a prominent lawyer that were together, and they tried her cases and under another judge. Like, they just wouldn't allow that, because it would be, how would they be able to keep things separate? No matter how integral they are, that would still raise too many. Because even if they went against them, they would be like, well, you only went against her because you're together and tried to prove a point. Or if you sided with them, well, you only sided with them because that's your wife or your girlfriend or whatever. So
right,
they give too much room for shit to get thrown out.
There's a lot of conflict of interest. That's true.
I definitely think you're right, and that scene was framed for a reason. What that reason is, I don't know. I guess we'll find out in the next episode, or not. They had them stuff they didn't do this episode. Talk about, this is the 7th episode. It doesn't feel like there's been 7 episodes. We only got 3 more. I mean, we've said it. Oh, we've said it almost every single week, but I'm going to say it again. How the hell do you wrap this up in a few episodes? Like, we're at the end. I am at the point now where I'm like, there's got to be another season. I mean, come on, there has to be more to this story, because it just feels that way.
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff that they've brought to everybody's attention is too important to just kind of let go and
Yeah.
not sweep under the rug, but to not explain it. So unless they're going to rush it and kind of get through it, which as long as they don't even have to go into full blown explanations, as long as they don't leave it kind of open ended, I wouldn't be too mad. But it's one of those things where now I'm intrigued enough to where I would love a second season, as opposed to being somewhat intrigued and just being like, all right, we'll wrap this shit up. Like, I
Well,
actually like them to extend some of those storylines out.
there's so many characters now, and there's so many little plot lines running, and it's like I said, we just talked for like 10 minutes about Lee. Lee's a minor side character, you know what I mean? But she is woven into this plot so much, and you question, damn, what's going to happen? Or Nancy, Costello, like, what, they keep bringing all these characters in, and it's like, damn, what's going to happen next? Desire Crew, we had a couple scenes with them this week. And this is where Jimmy Baxter is really effing up. I mean, talk about a dumbass move. He comes to them. His son's Carlo's making a deal with him. He has 150,000, a bunch of the drugs. He gets, busted by the cops. And Jimmy just straight tells him, yeah, you're going to have to eat that. And it's like, dude, come on. Like, 150,000, you really think they're going to just say, okay?
All right.
Yeah, it's insane. And clearly they were, they even amongst themselves were like, yes, screw Carlo. Yeah, we're going to get his ass. So they're clearly going to mess with Carlo in prison. So that's a whole other storyline. And then I love, it's Eugene, right? Little man.
Mm-hmm.
He's in a couple scenes, doesn't say a word, but he acts his ass off through his facial expressions. That actor, he's killing it. He's in the court, like you can see what he's thinking. You can feel his emotions in all of his scenes, and clearly he's plotting and he's thinking, and he's playing the long game. And I'm very, and that yet again, that's another reason I want a second season now, is because I want to see where his character goes.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and I'm glad you mentioned that because, like I said, he's doing a lot of acting with his emotions and his expressions and things without saying a word, because they've established that his character is just kind of naturally very quiet, and he's the type of person that waits and sees, and that's part of why they wanted to recruit him, because they think that kind of person can go far in their organization. So I am curious, like what is his plan for this? If things don't go the way that he's hoping they will, like what is his alternate plan for everything? At that Desire Crew, I think Jimmy is really, really underestimating them, because I don't know, the way it was framed, or at least the way this show makes it seem framed, he wasn't. Desire Crew seems like at least it feels like an older gang to me, whereas he's doing, a lot of mob stuff. It seems like he maybe started that once he became the Oyster. He became the Oyster King while he was doing that. Like, he hasn't been established for being the guy for long. So Jimmy's not untouchable, is what I'm getting at. They can still get to him in ways, and so it's like like I said, he's playing his hand poorly in some ways.
Well, did you know that the Eugene character, he's like a Disney star?
Really?
I did not. That's great.
I'll look up the show in a minute. It was like it wasn't the Witches of Waverly Place, because that was a different show, but it was like a kind of like a spin-off of that. It was like Witch College or something. I don't know. He's in like 2 or 3 like Disney shows, and I'm gonna look them up real quick. But I just want.
I hope it's Witch College.
It's Witch College.
Not Disney. Do not steal my Witch College idea.
Too late. Yeah, Larry, you're Jimmy is insane to think. First of all, the fact that they have 150,000 cash, they have power. You know what I'm saying? And clearly they're in the drug business. They have a lot of product, and they make that clear. You don't get those kind of connections and are able to do those things if you don't have manpower. And the fact that Jimmy is willing to basically put them in a corner where they're gonna have to act out. They have no choice, because he's basically punking them, and that's just not gonna stand. And I think that's going to be possibly part of his downfall, or something that's going to take him down.
It's
Could be
his
them.
yeah, it's his hubris. He doesn't understand what he's dealing with. It's Jimmy thinks he's coming at dealing with a small street gang, but they've proven to be something much bigger than that. And they're resourceful, and they've been playing them. Well, I mean, it's clear that they've been playing them with the whole Carlo thing and everything. And like, just saying, Big Mo doesn't seem, she seems like she definitely plays the long game on things, and that she's smart about it.
Do you think the Carlo deal was a divide and conquer scheme, basically?
Well, those are actually the words she used in last episode when talking about Carlo. Yeah, so the plan was with the money to divide them via this, to have his son have his own business interests opposite of his father. Like have one hand not know what the other is doing, so that they can destroy their enemy from within. In a sense, get them to eat each other. It's like, and now you have Carlo, and it's like, oh, who gave Carlo these resources? Who okayed these things? You guys listen to Carlo right out of prison, even though I never gave him the type of control, and then it comes back to his wife, and it dominoes in a lot of little ways.
He's a Nickelodeon star, not Disney. I'm sorry.
Oh.
He was in like the Thundermans, some show called Triple. His name was Triple G. But it's like Game Sharks, where they create video games and apps and shit. Like, so it was Nickelodeon. I'm sorry, not Disney. So that still applies. Disney, don't steal my witch college idea.
Disney or Nick.
So Carlo, I don't know his partner's name, but his dumbass partner, who he has the drugs, right?
Yes,
because he had the bag with the drugs, and he's like telling them to be quiet, and then it shows him going to like a house, in the middle, who knows where, to hide out. Well, Jimmy tells the Desire crew, he's like, yeah, the drugs and the money are at the police station, but that's not true. The drugs are with his friend, and he's hiding out with a substantial amount of drugs, high value. Where the hell is that? That was one of those things where they never went back to it by the end of the episode. And I just sat back and I was like, where the hell is that plot line going? Like, they keep introducing all these new stories. And I was like, all right, now we have this guy held up with all these drugs. What the hell's going to happen?
Well, yeah, and I imagine he's hiding from everybody, from the cops, from Jimmy,
Yes.
From Desire crew.
Well, and I thought he wasn't going to make it out of the truck. I thought that Carlo was going to not get caught and not go back to the hotel, but it was because he was going to end up at the hospital with his friend, because while he was sitting there, they clearly had done drugs prior to, driving him, ending up back at the hotel. But when you were looking at the friend, it looked like he was like slipping into an unconscious state, and I was waiting for that to happen, but it didn't, and his friend ended up freaking out and trying to haul ass.
Man, I feel like you could do like 2-3 episodes on how he gets out of his situation if he does, to be honest.
Yet again, another minor character, but you're like, wow, he's in it, boy. What the hell's going to happen with? You're right. Everybody's going to want his head, and yeah, what's he going to do, and how's this going to play into the overall story? I have no idea.
Right.
Michael, he does things sometimes. I'm like, why did you do that? Like, okay, so he goes home and he brings Trevor's wallet home and he burns it in his little fireplace thing. Why? You know what I mean? That was one of those things. It's like, why would you do that? Like, I'm just thinking of how that could go bad. Now, he feeds his dog, well, he doesn't, Adam does, a piece of Trevor's brain. We get the shot at the end where the dog vomits up the brain, and Michael, just the moment where it hits him, like, oh my God, look at all the shit I've done. And that's what I took out of that scene, him sort of just reality smacking him in the face.
Yeah.
But do you think the wallet could come back at some point? Even though I know it's burning, but there, a piece of it may have not burned, or.
Well, remember, I was talking about Jimmy's DNA being at the house. So when if there was ever a time where eventually they kind of point the finger at the judge for being complicit in all this stuff, he has a case where he'd be like, look, I was being blackmailed. I was this. Jimmy was trying to, do this to me. Uh, he has a fight to where he could still get out of it. And now there's DNA of all this stuff. He could say that, you know, Trevor came here to blackmail me and they, killed him and took him away, blah, blah. There's like so many ways. Clearly good at lying. So I think there is a possibility that he could try to talk his way out of a lot of this stuff and it might work. And also because of how connected he is, like he might be able to pull it off.
Exactly. He's just going to say, yeah, Jimmy Baxter was blackmailing me into doing this. He said he was going to kill Adam. Like he'll have some crocodile tears, will mix with some legitimate ones, and he may be able to get out of it. But as far as the wallet and everything, I thought that was a suspicious and weird thing to do. And then thinking of the party afterwards, I kind of assumed, especially since the detective, since she's so good at what she does, like I don't know, I have a fairly good sense of smell. Like, would you guys not, if someone burned a leather wallet with like plastic cards in it and everything, and like, wouldn't y'all smell that? Yeah, because I would.
Nah, man, burning plastic doesn't have a very distinct odor.
It was. I just don't know why it was one of those thoughts. Like, why the fuck did he bring the wallet to the house? Like, dispose of it elsewhere. I don't know. I really don't know why he did that.
Well, I think part of it may have been if he just threw it. Now, he could have burned it anywhere. I think that's a good argument. Like, why the fuck do you bring it to your house to set it on fire? Burning it anywhere, getting rid of it, just throwing it somewhere. Now it's this guy's missing. Now, when they find a body, they're like, well, shit, something happened to this guy. But right now, they just made it to where he basically disappeared. So they're not even looking for this guy. And if they get rid of all of his other things, if some bum found his wallet or some kid or some teenager by the water and there's a shit ton of money in there, credit cards, they would start charging that. And now it would be suspicious. So I think that what he did was smart, but where he did it at was dumb.
Well, yeah. And it's the sort of thing like this guy's got a reputation and that may play in Michael's favor. Also, like even his dad said that, his dad described him as being, as being born wrong, even that he's so shitty, so it's like because of that they'd be like, oh yeah, he had gambling debts and he owed these people and he stole his dad's car and
yeah, now he's in the wind, he's somewhere else,
and even if they do find him, it could be set up like depending on how they frame that, it's like, oh, he couldn't live with the things he's done or the person he is. Looks like a suicide to me. Yeah, especially depending on what cops they get involved. If Jimmy's people are involved and his right-hand man was there helping him dispose of the body, they'll make excuses.
It looks like he tied himself up and threw an anchor in the or a propeller in the water. And
wait, I forgot. Yeah, they tied more than his legs, so yeah, they can't do that one. But
shot him in the head.
But yeah, that's true. That's true.
Like
good point.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
This could play if the body does resurface. I mean, in this show, a storm could hit next episode. The body pops up, but Jimmy's the one that pulled the trigger, so that could play to Michael's favor if the body were to come back up.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Oh, like, fuck!
So much explanation that Michael can get away with.
Well, I just thought of something huge here. They don't necessarily need to find the body. He just needs to be reported missing, and or someone needs to stop by his place and find the burner phone that he was using. Like, did Michael ever find the burner phone that was on him?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
So that alone could, if they find that phone, then they find the messages that he's been sending to Michael, or if they find Michael's phone, honestly. But if they find his phone, they find those messages. Especially the car. Yeah, the car's been reported stolen, and he's probably, and not his old burner phone that he used to blackmail Michael, but the phone that Michael gave to him to blackmail him is probably still in the car.
Did they ever show what happened to the car? I didn't even think about that. How Trevor got there.
Well, I don't think they showed it. So chances are his dad's going to report it stolen. They're going to find the phone in there. They're going to find the messages between him and Michael. And things will be pieced together. But all this sounds like, if this is how it's going down, it does sound like a season 2 is needed. If it's going to play out like that.
Now we got 3 episodes, man. We can knock all this out.
Well, and that's the thing. They can tie a lot of it up, but I think that's one of the things where it's not super important to the plot, but given another season, it could definitely be something else that he has to deal with. So I think that this is one of those things that they leave some little minor loose ends open that could be big deals, and they do that on purpose just in case there's another season. I don't know if, from what I've seen, this doesn't feel like it was written for one season, like with the intent to basically wrap it up. It feels like it was writ with the intent writ. It was wrote with the intent to continue the story.
Every single episode has introduced new story and new characters and new little plot lines. I mean, every single one, this one included. So yeah, I'm at this point, I'm like completely like, we need a season 2. Now, obviously, shit, for all we know, everybody dies at the end of this season. I don't know.
Not to mention that there is a supporting character that came into the scene out of nowhere that we've never seen again. Adam's grandmother.
Yeah.
So
And for
exactly, for part of an episode, a single episode, we have this character, and she seemed like she was going to be more significant. And if she never shows up again, I just feel like we'd have to have a season 2.
We still haven't dug into Robin's death, Adam's mother, Michael's wife. Like, it kept hinting that there was more there, and then it sort of got away from it. She comes up every episode. They're always talking about her, but it almost feels like there's more to that story even.
Well, that's like we're talking about multiple seasons that could play into the next season. Like even if Baxter or one of them don't make it, then they still have that whole storyline, how that was a big deal, how that led to these things, how that led to him being associated with the Desire crew later on or something. I did want to mention though, because I just remember we were talking about how Charlie and Michael formed such a strong bond.
Yeah.
Out in the episode.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we finally got that. We finally got that story.
Go ahead into it if you want.
Well, they mentioned that he, at a very young age, he had drowned or was drowning, and Michael came over, saved him, and not only saved him, but cleared his lungs out. Had to what do you say, pick him up by his feet so that all the water came out of his lungs or whatever. So he saved his life. So that's why they're attached at the hip, and it explains why Charlie's willing to go through so much to help Michael. However, at what point is that loyalty going to waver because the shit that he's being asked to do? However, Charlie is not on the up and up. Like the stuff that he has basically on speed dial shows me that he's just as crooked as the other ones.
Yet again, another reason I want a season 2 now is I want Charlie as mayor. I want that story.
Yeah, exactly. And not only would we get Charlie as mayor there, we'd get, what's his name as his police chief, and Michael gets the position that he was promised. And yet we still have all this evidence out there of what's happened, and, all these different figures involved, and, and we have the mob and the gang stuff to deal with still in a season 2. There's just so much that it doesn't feel like it could be wrapped up in 3 episodes.
Yeah. And if you're right, and if Lee is sticking with that firm, then that can play in, because now she's defending the police. She's working directly with Charlie and all that crew. But if she did leave it, then we still have, if she ever finds out the truth, that drama. And then their relationship could get stronger in season 2. They could be, married or whatever, or engaged at that point. There's a lot of setup already where I can see where a season 2 would fit. You just need, the question is who survives the end of this season.
Right.
But and my final point, Jimmy has been a very shallow character, not a whole lot of development. Probably one of the weaker I felt written characters, but this episode we do get a little bit more of Jimmy. He explains himself a little more. We see that he does have plans, and even though some of them are horrible, and they're gonna fail. But you get a little bit more out of Jimmy. You get a little bit more of a character arc. You get a little more understanding. I thought yet again, Bryan Cranston uplifting the scenes. All the scenes where it was just those two were phenomenal. Absolutely, that's just great acting happening. But I felt a little more. That I get Jimmy a little more, even though I think he's a moron, but I get him a little more than I have.
I love the whole sequence where it's when he talks about his ability to basically do whatever now because his art had been ripped out. I think he said, the visceral pain of losing a child and how it gives you the freedom to basically just not have conscience anymore because it's he's just able to separate himself from that because he's like, there's nothing that's going to cause me pain at this point because the amount of pain he's in.
Well, yeah, and that's the version of Jimmy Baxter that we've seen since the beginning of the show. The version of him who's it's post the accident with Rocco, so we haven't seen how Jimmy is in most situations. I think we got a better idea, in this episode of who he was before these events, because prior to that we've primarily seen how he deals and how he operates while dealing with trauma, and now we're seeing that he now we're getting a better idea how he runs his day-to-day operation. The fact that he wasn't really being an idiot in court, that he was just trying to make it look like they're not on the same side and everything. It's like, okay, maybe to some degree, like not the smartest guy, but to some degree, Jimmy Baxter is competent at what he does.
This was the first time I felt that in any way in the entire series, because I was like, how the hell did he rise to what he did? And this episode, you get a little more, okay. And even the scene where they're disposing of Trevor's body, his guy knew exactly how to do that. You know what I mean? Tie the shoelaces, double knot. Clearly, this is not the first time that these things have happened. When Jimmy pulls the trigger, it was nothing to him. You know what I mean? Like when he kills Trevor, it's like, well, another day at the office. These are things they've done before. This is who they are. So we finally get to see, okay, this is what they are,
Right.
That's normal in the life of an Oyster King.
I think I got everything. Anything else you guys want to talk about regarding episode 7 of Your Honor?
No, I don't have anything else, I don't think.
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything.
Yes. Cool. Yeah, I'm loving it. 3 left. I hate when a show like this is about to end. It's like, damn it, because we're really into it. But yeah, reviews every single Sunday. Check out we got 30 coins. We're doing the stand. So we're gonna finish the stand. WandaVision. If you've not seen our WandaVision review, it is up. We're gonna be doing that every week as well. So yeah, check out what we have on the channel. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.